Thank you, LUSH Live. Can you hear me okay? Happy Mother's Day, everyone. I am here today to give a talk that is tremendously optimistic, powerful, insightful, and if we can grasp the simplicity of this talk, we can all become change makers that we are already. So here we go. Why the world can't afford anything less than a humanitarian, ecological, and spiritual revolution. Why can't the world afford anything less than utopia? I will be showing a series of slides. We can go through them. But essentially, before we start, do we all agree that humanity today is going through a period of tremendous change? Who agrees? And we have been going through this period of tremendous change for many decades now. The difference is, this change is exponentially growing. More and more people are becoming aware of this change. So what is this change about? Firstly, it is not a trend. Do not mistake this for a trend. It is not a fad. It is not a fleeting glimpse of some optimism in the world. This is a transformation at the deepest level of the human psyche, at the deepest level of what it means to be human, living in the world today on this single beautiful planet that we call our home. We are facing tremendous challenges. I am not here to describe or talk about the symptoms. We are all aware of the challenges we are facing, especially on the ecological, environmental level with the depletion of our natural resources. I think everyone here, everyone listening to this talk around the world is aware of the symptoms of what is happening to our Mother Earth today. Now, there are reasons why we have been treating the environment, treating nature the way we do, and I will hope to guide us through some of these reasons why humanity has seen nature as the enemy rather than the mother that she is. You with me so far? Okay, hang on to your bean bags. We're going to go on a nice journey now. I think you will all concur with most of the slides you're going to read today. If you concur with most of them, you are already a change maker. You are already aware of what's happening in the world. You are already participating proactively in bringing about a humanitarian and ecological worldview in which we live. We all agree with this statement? If we continue to live the way we do, we would need another planet. We must remember we only have one. We tend to live a life of voluntary simplicity. More and more of us today are living simple lives. No one is forcing us to live simply. We are doing it on a voluntary basis. We are aware that if we live simply, others can simply live, as the great Mahatma Gandhi once said. So we are increasingly simplifying our lives. We have money, we have everything we need, yet we choose to live a simple lifestyle. Now, this is happening all over the world. What I'm talking about today is not just in Hong Kong or in South America or North America. This is a universal awakening, a universal movement of change. Now, this is a big statement here. Material success does not mean happiness. Who agrees with this? So no matter how much money we have in the bank account, it doesn't seem to be making us happy. Yes, it supplies us with our basic needs, food, shelter, education for our children. Very important. We need this material success. but it is not changing how we feel deep inside. It is not making us more happy. It is not giving us peace of mind, no matter how much money we make. In fact, statistics are showing that the richer we become, the more complicated our lives become, especially on an emotional and inner level. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This has come through Native American Indian wisdom. We do not own the earth. It's the other way around. I think we're all aware of this as well, that our current institutions of education, health, business, industry, and so on and so forth, all our institutions are mostly outdated and do not serve a sustainable future that we seek. So the change has to happen within our institutions. Education has to change. Health has to change. Industry has to change. Business has to change. And it is changing. So the current paradigm in which we live, the current worldview in which we live, is not sustainable. So at this moment in time, I want to talk about something that is very difficult to become aware of. It is almost like asking the fish, is the fish aware of water? Do you think the fish is aware of something called water? I'm not a fish, I don't know, but it's quite likely that fish are not aware of the medium in which they exist. On a similar level, us humans, we are not fully aware of the worldview into which we are born. An English word for worldview is paradigm. That means everything you can relate to, everything you believe in, everything you feel, everything you sense, everything you see, everything you touch is based on a particular worldview into which we are all born. Regardless of our educational background, regardless of our political beliefs, our religious beliefs, regardless of what we feel about who we are still born into a worldview. And for the lack of a better term, I shall call this worldview a materialism worldview. And the worldview that we were born into, doesn't matter if you're 50, 100, or even if you're 10 years young, it is the same worldview that's been around for thousands of years. Our great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmothers and grandparents shared the same worldview we share today. Technology's changed, standards of living have changed. You open the tap, water comes out at home. You click the lights, on comes the light, air conditioning, iPhones, iPads. All of this is changing, yes. But the fundamental belief system for humanity has not changed in thousands of years. And that is called a paradigm or a worldview. It's a very difficult and yet very simple concept to understand. Firstly, a worldview is an assumption. The materialism worldview in which we live, yes, it's based on science. It's based on the scientific worldview, which started in the 1500s. And this scientific revolution, this scientific worldview has given us everything we have. And we are eternally thankful to this scientific worldview. But it is based on assumptions. It is not based on scientific facts. It's a big subject, but it's a very important one as well. So we all live in a materialism worldview. What I mean by materialism is that we believe that the fundamental building block of the universe is made out of matter, something physical, a particle, an atom, a quark. This belief system is held by all of humanity, regardless of our economic status, wealth, as I said, belief system, religion. All of humanity shares the same worldview, that the building block of the universe is a physical particle. And that's why we call it a materialism worldview. Are you with me so far? And regardless of what educational background we have, we're professors at university, regardless of whether we are communists, capitalists, this is beyond the ism. This is about the wasm, not the ism, the wasm. So this statement here that material success does not mean happiness, but in a materialism worldview, material success is the ultimate goal we have to reach. In our current worldview, we judge people on how successful they are by how much money they've made. Even our parents, bless them, they say, you have to go and get a good education so you can make lots of money. Their intentions are good, but they are misguided. So in our world today, we judge people on how successful they are by how much money they have made. So who would agree with this statement, which kind of contradicts what I just said about the materialism assumptions? You are willing to change your lifestyle and income to counterbalance the planetary crisis. Who is willing to do that? So we are willing to take jobs that are meaningful, that are proactive, that are changing the world, moving us away from this materialism paradigm into the emerging paradigm, the emerging worldview, which I will talk about. Who agrees with this one? By changing the world, you are changing yourself. This is ancient wisdom. This is ancient spirituality. If you want to change the world, change yourself. Once you have changed yourself, everything around you changes. You follow your passion by living a vocation that reflects your values and principles. Who agrees with this statement? So we want jobs that are meaningful, that reflect what we truly believe in, our values, what we truly stand for, our principles. That's why more and more of us are shifting towards jobs that give back and not just take. Now, this is a wake-up call. Our lifestyles today have the same impact in 1 year on our planet, in 1 year, as our ancestors' lifestyles had in 1,000 years. So 1 year of living today in 2018 causes as much damage to the planet as our ancestors' lifestyle did in 1,000 years. This is diabolically mad. And yet, there are 7.5 billion humans today wanting to live this affluent lifestyle of eating meat, fish, and dairy every day, and so on and so forth. So the repercussions are utterly beyond the human comprehension. Again, I'm not here to talk about the symptoms. In the materialism paradigm, we have to bring the economy back to normal. We have to keep the economy going up and up. This is the hallmark of what it means to be successful. Whether you are the government in Beijing or the government in Washington or in London, it does not matter. During the economic crisis in 2008, every world leader said we have to bring the economy back to normal. We have to keep the economy back on track. But this is not in the interests of humanity or the planet, because an economy that's based on a materialism worldview sees nature as a resource to be exploited. A materialism worldview sees trees as nothing but paper and food and housing. A materialism worldview sees the ocean as full of fish to eat. So bringing the economy back to where it is does not serve anyone except very few. You're comfortable taking the path less trodden. Nature in the materialism worldview is about survival of the fittest. It's about competition. This is not true. This is an assumption. We know that nature is much more democratic, and nature cooperates. Nature lives in harmony. Humans in the materialism paradigm are competitive and aggressive, not nature. So again, we've built our worldview on assumptions, not facts. This is a very important point. The healing of the earth and the healing of the human spirit are one and the same. Neither can be achieved without the other. So we cannot heal the earth until we heal ourselves. And this is what's so exciting about today, is we are transforming from within. We are changing ourselves from within. We are healing ourselves through the multiple esoteric practices like yoga, tai chi, qigong, changing our diets, going on juice fasting, moving towards plant-based diets. These are all healing modalities in which we need to heal the human spirit, because it's only when we heal the human spirit will we be able to start healing our planet, our home. Very important to understand this. Government policies, corporations doing greenwash will not heal Mother Earth. People will. We can heal Mother Earth. But we have to heal ourselves first. You cannot heal anybody if you are sick. And this is the beauty about this transformation we are going through today, is we are all becoming healers after we heal ourselves. Who agrees with this? Who believes that water is sacred and should be treated with respect? But in a materialism worldview, water is a commodity. We ship water from Fiji and Scotland and Timbuktu and God knows where, all the way to Hong Kong. Where is the sense in that except economic, money, material sense? Water is sacred. We have the best water here in Hong Kong. All we have to do is put filters on our taps. Again, I'm not here to talk about the symptoms. Having no plan is often the best plan. Who agrees with that? It's a bit of a more challenging one, but through experience, if you look back, you'll realize that this is often the case. Who agrees with this statement, that money cannot solve our problems or the world's problems and needs? Again, the media is the mouthpiece of the worldview in which we live. And I'm not talking politics here. The media can only reflect its level of evolution. In a materialism worldview, what really matters for the media is drama. How many people were killed in this bomb? How many scandals happened in that boardroom? What the pop star did. Our media today tends to be very negative, and it highlights drama because drama supposedly sells news. I completely disagree with that. I think it's time for more positive news in the world today. But in a materialism worldview, we thrive on negative news. It makes us feel good that others are suffering and we are not. The earth is not dying, ladies and gentlemen. Mother Earth is not dying. She is being killed by us, the humans who inhabit it. Again, a very important insight to take into your consciousness. On a scientific level, in the mainstream science of the materialism worldview, this does not make sense. Because you live in a physical world, So to say that we are all connected through the ether, through telepathy and our six senses, does not make sense to mainstream science. But in the emerging science, this makes a lot of sense, and in fact, this is a scientific statement. Who cares about what they put down their toilet, down their sinks, down their drains? We're very careful. That's why we use LUSH products. Who believes that war can be justified? War is a lie propagated through mainstream media. War, the only thing war benefits is the economy. Our GDPs go up when we have more wars. Why? Because somebody has to make the bombs and sell them. That's why we have so many wars in the world today, because it is good for the economy. Who's given away their TV or doesn't watch TV? More and more of us will be doing this. I'm not necessarily talking about Netflix. I'm talking about mainstream television. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Who supports more feminine leadership? In the materialism worldview, feminine leadership or the feminine essence has been subdued for thousands of years. Why? For all the reasons I'm talking about. In the emerging worldview, which I've yet to name, the essence of the feminine is dominant. And I'm not talking about necessarily boys and girls. I'm talking about the qualities of the feminine. Compassion, caring, cooperation, embracing, Mother Nature. These are all essentials of the feminine. So today we are seeing more feminine leadership because it is inevitable. In the materialism paradigm, the masculine dominates. There has been no room for the feminine. Commercial agriculture, where's the culture in killing cows and milking cows to death? Where is the culture in growing palm oil on tropical rainforest land? Where is the culture in that? Agriculture, I think we have to change the name. There is a lot of culture in organic farming, in biodynamic farming, in compassionate farming, in the rotation of crops. There's a lot of culture there. Again, we care about what we put on our body and on our hair. Who agrees with this one? That your circle of compassion extends beyond your family and yourself. This is why we are caring more about animals, for example, or trees, or the soil, or the water, or people in sub-Saharan Africa. Our circle of compassion is getting wider and wider. In a materialism paradigm, your circle of compassion is limited to your bank account, your family. Basta, stop. Doesn't make sense anymore. We are expanding our circle of compassion. Who's deeply concerned about the state of the world? Again, in a materialism paradigm, the earth is nothing but a rock revolving around the sun. This is what we were taught at school. This is what our great-great-great-great-grandparents were taught. Today, our children are being taught the same thing. In a materialism worldview, in a materialism paradigm, the earth is dead. Now, who believes here that the earth is not a living organism? Of course she is. She's our mother. Say no more. I think humanity now has reached its peak, its limits of how much it can evolve on a physical level. There's no more fish left in the sea. There's hardly any original rainforest left in the world. There's not a drop of water anywhere in the world that's not contaminated. We have reached the peak, the limits. We cannot go any further without changing our worldview. As consumers, we can change the world, right? We vote with our dollar. We decide where we want to spend. And this is how we are becoming very powerful, is we can vote, we can choose where to spend our money. More and more of us are spending their money in ecological, health, plant-based, sustainable businesses. This is our power, by the way. What do I mean by cheap food is a crime? I don't mean you go to the shop and you can get something for cheap. That's a bargain, right? I'm talking about the business. The real cost of a hamburger, if you do proper calculation, proper accounting, transparent accounting, from the birth of the hamburger till it lands on your plate. A fast food hamburger you can buy here for 20 Hong Kong dollars, right? I think. The real cost of a hamburger, ladies and gentlemen, is at least $200. If you account for all the resources, the water, the trees, the animals. So cheap food, the business of cheap food, is a crime against humanity. This is one of my favorites. One day, not too far from now, and I think a lot of us can feel this, right? One day, very soon, industrial animal farming will be regarded in the same way that we regard slavery today. Who amongst us could have a slave, a human slave today? No one. Yet we enslave animals on a very, very large scale. This change is coming. In a materialism paradigm, this don't make sense. But in the emerging worldview, it makes a lot of sense. Who's heard of the statement, "I think, therefore I am"? Anyone who studied philosophy at school? René Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." Well, that's fine in the materialism worldview. Today, it's "I am consciousness, therefore I am." This makes a lot more sense to us change makers. Ancient people can teach us a lot of wisdom, respect for the earth, respect for each other, and humility. Yet in the materialism worldview, we are wiping out these ancient people. We are chopping down their rainforests so we can feed people beef, so we can feed people fish. We are killing these ancient cultures that have been living on this earth for millions of years. And this breaks my heart. To have wiped out civilizations that were living in harmony with the earth, taking only what they needed, were living in complete happiness and well-being. They had peace of mind, and we come in with our bulldozers, wiping out their existence in the name of the economy. Enough. We need to safeguard what's left of these ancient civilizations, because they are like ancient libraries. We kill them, we kill our knowledge. We kill them, we kill our wisdom. We are all interconnected. In the materialism worldview, this doesn't make sense. In the materialism worldview, in the materialism paradigm, the dominant paradigm that's existed for thousands of years, there is no God, there is no universal consciousness, there is only matter. Are you with me? We were taught at school that God does not exist, that there is no intelligence in the universe, that everything is dead materialism, everything is dead matter, particles, quarks, subquarks. Again, this is science, but mainstream science will contradict this. Consciousness as a causal reality is the foundation of the new scientific paradigm. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but needless enough to say that our science, the institution of science, is also changing. It is not stagnating. Science now believes that the universe is not made out of atoms and quarks and small particles. The cutting-edge science today believes that the universe is made out of consciousness. Don't believe what I'm telling you. Check it out for yourself. And this is where the change lies, because as human beings, we always follow science. We are very logical, or have been for the last few thousands of years, very practical, pragmatic. We need something to make sense. That's why the economy is so important in the materialism paradigm. A 100 years ago, I could have been put into prison for saying this. Try and understand what I'm saying. 200 years ago, I could have been burnt at the stake for making this statement. 300 years ago, I would have been wiped out immediately. So we have come a long way. Try and memorize this and maybe Google something of this effect later. Again, can you believe it? In 2018, nature has no rights. This is madness. I can buy a piece of land that belonged to indigenous cultures, and I can chop down all the trees, build a dam, divert the water. How can I do that? I have no right to chop down all the trees, pollute all the water. I do not own the earth. We have human rights, right? Thank God for that. It took thousands of years for us to have human rights. We have property rights. I own this property, you own that property. But even today, in 2018, Mother Nature has no rights. How so? Why? How can that be? Can you build a tree? Can you build a blade of grass? Can you create water? Can you create fresh air? No. Yet how come you can buy and own that and wipe it out and destroy it? So, the challenge today is to give Mother Nature her rights, so that if you buy a piece of land, you cannot chop down all the trees. Of course, you need to chop some down to build, but you have to plant more. So our central challenge today is how can we give rights to Mother Nature? Animals have rights. Some people are working very hard on this. But Mother Nature, our mother, with which we cannot live, can be abused, raped, and pillaged. And our institution of law does nothing to protect nature. Again, our institutions are outdated. The institution of law needs to be changed. We need funky lawyers to come in and build and change the law so that Mother Nature has rights. You with me? Again, materialism science, materialism worldview, materialism institutions are all limited by their own assumptions, not by facts. We change the assumptions, we change the scientific paradigm. We have all collectively assumed that the economy is the most important thing in the world today. We have all collectively assumed that material success means success. We have all collectively assumed that nature has no rights. We have all collectively assumed that water is a commodity. Are you with me? This is a very important point, that we have built this materialism worldview, this materialism paradigm, on assumptions and not facts. Change those assumptions and our worldview will change. And this is what we are doing today. We are becoming aware that our science is not built on scientific fact. It's built on an assumption or assumptions. So I haven't named this emerging worldview that I'm trying to describe. I've mentioned the world materialism paradigm many times, right? Collectively, humanity is shifting from a material paradigm towards a consciousness paradigm. And this is why there is hope. This is why we are changing the world. This is why we can change the world. Because collectively, millions and millions of us are waking up to the fact that our existing dominant worldview is just an assumption. And collectively, we are waking up, we are evolving, we are shifting towards a consciousness worldview. These are the two biggest words in any language. Marry consciousness and worldview together, and thousands and hundreds of thousands of books could be published on that subject. Consciousness worldview. A consciousness paradigm is key for us to succeed in giving our children and our children's children a planet that is not dying. And more of us are waking up to this, and you see it reflected everywhere. In the beginning, I said this is not a trend. This is an awakening. This is a movement that is moving very quickly. Regardless of your religion, your ethnicity, your country, your nationality, your wealth, your education. I am talking about water to the fish. Remember in the beginning I asked us if fish are aware of water? Us humans are seldom aware of worldviews. And I am trying to share this insight with us, that there is something called a paradigm, there is something called a worldview, and it is changing. And once this changes, everything changes. How you value your work, how you dress, how you eat, how you talk, how you make your money, where you spend your money, what kind of education you give to your children, how you view the stars, how you view the planets, how you view animals, how you view everything shifts once your worldview shifts. Everything, how you talk, how you stand, what you wear, everything shifts once we shift our worldview. Throughout the known history of humanity, there's been only 3 or 4 transformations in the last 10,000 years, similar to the one we're going through today. No more than 3 or 4. 10,000 years ago, when we first discovered agriculture, and we started to grow food in one place and stopped becoming nomadic, hunter-gatherers, everything changed. Who can think of other changes that changed all of reality for humans? The scientific revolution in the 1500s changed a whole worldview. Today, we are going through a similar transformation. And after this talk, you will not be the same. The seeds of consciousness I'm dropping into your consciousness will not leave your head. My role here today is to empower us to become change makers, empowered by knowledge and wisdom. We are drowning in information. We need to transform this information into experience, and then from experience it becomes knowledge. And once we have knowledge and we live knowledge, we become wise. Wisdom is knowledge in action. So we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Essentially, we are spiritual beings on this earth having a human experience. So remember, a worldview is like fish and water. A fish is not aware of the water in which it swims. Human beings, we are seldom aware of worldviews. And today, for the last 100 years or so, we are rapidly going through this transformation, and we are shifting from a materialism paradigm that has been around for thousands of years into a consciousness paradigm at which we are just the beginning. And this is how we are changing the world. This is the only reason I wake up in the morning optimistic. Where else can I find my optimism? Not in government policy, not in corporations, not on the news. Where else can I find my optimism except by looking at these wonderful people, all of us who are transforming, the change makers? That's where I see hope. Because if we don't change, we will never change the world. And how can we change without knowledge and wisdom? How can we change without healing ourselves? And this change, ladies and gentlemen, is inevitable. It is growing exponentially, very, very quickly. And can you guess how many people in the world today live and believe in a consciousness worldview? This number is going to shock you. We think us people who are changing and waking up are in the minority. You are going to be surprised. And the reason there is hope today that we can change the world for the better is, et voila. You are not alone. There are at least 500 million people in the world today who believe in a consciousness worldview. That's 1 in every 14 human beings. That's 500 million people, brothers and sisters like us here today. In 10 years' time, this would have doubled. Why? Because of something called the millennials. Who's heard of the millennials? And Generation X, Y, Z. They are being born into this worldview. Now, when I ask some millennials, are you vegan? They're like, duh. Of course I'm vegan. Are you silly or what? Who's with me? Therein lies the hope, ladies and gentlemen. This is how we are changing the world. This is why we are changing the world. This is why we have changed the world. There is no stopping this movement. There is no stopping the evolution of humanity. There is no stopping this awakening. It cannot be stopped. There is no country to bomb. There is no leader to assassinate. There is no ism to change. There is no ideology to wipe out. How can you stop this movement? It is growing from mind to mind, from heart to heart. Keep this in mind as I close my sharing now. This cannot be stopped. Unlike political movements that you can stop by killing the leaders or bombing the country or assassinating JFK or Mahatma Gandhi, there is no way this can be stopped. Are you with me? Each year, more and more people are becoming aware. Each year, more and more people are waking up to the consciousness paradigm. So let us rejoice. Let us celebrate. In spite of all our challenges, in spite of all our problems, let us rejoice that humanity is finally waking up to its full potential. Thank you very much.